Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's head-to-head comparison, we're going to take a look at two very different generations of the BMW M3. So we have a 2022 year model, which is the 6th generation for the M3, and a 1996 M3, which is the 2nd generation. Now obviously these are completely different, being two-doored versus a four-doored sedan. The 4th generation BMW M3 is when they offer the sedan, the coupe, and the convertible as well. And now the M3 is just a four-doored sedan. So if you want a coupe, you have to go to the M4, which is a two-door vehicle with 4 seats in it. And so today we'll take a look at both of these inside and out and then get them out on the road. Now for the 2022 year model, they have a starting MSRP right around $76,000. For this 1996 that we're looking at today, it had a starting MSRP right around $40,000. So starting with the 6th generation for the M3, this is powered by a 3-liter twin power turbo inline 6-cylinder engine. There are 2 transmissions available. You can get the 8-speed automatic in the competition. In the non-competition, you can get the 6-speed manual. This pumps out 503 horsepower, 479 pound-feet of torque. It can be rear-wheel drive or have the X-Drive all-wheel drive system. Weighs in right around 3,800 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds with a top speed of 180 miles an hour. And it has a fuel capacity of 15.6 gallons. You'll expect to see around 16 miles per gallon in the city and 23 out on the highway. Over on the 2nd generation M3, this has the S50 3.2-liter straight 6-cylinder engine. You could get a 5-speed manual or a 6-speed manual. It pumps out 240 horsepower and 236 pound-feet of torque. Is only rear-wheel drive. 0 to 60 took 6 seconds. It had a top speed of 155 miles an hour. And its fuel capacity is 16.4 gallons. You'll expect to see around 18 miles per gallon in the city and 26 out on the highway. Now, as we make our way to the exterior styling for both of these M3s, starting on the 6th generation, you can clearly tell it has that modern design to it, being a 2022. Still retains the kidney design with all the parking sensors, which is part of the technology. There's plenty of cutouts to provide cooling to this engine. This even has LED headlights and LED DRLs. And this specific model even has a lot of carbon fiber. You can see it on the inlets. It's in the lower section of the front splitter as well. And then up on the hood, there are very nice lines that extend down to that kidney grille. Everything flows nicely. There's a lot of sharp lines and angles to this front end. And then as we work our way back in time to this 1996, you can kind of see some of the similarities with the 2022 and of course where it came from. This has the kidney design grille right in the middle, finished off in carbon fiber. So the carbon fiber dates back to the 2nd generation here. Now this model does have an aftermarket carbon fiber front splitter mimicking this 2022. Pretty cool to see that. It almost looks like a factory option. No LED headlights or fog lights obviously, but it has more of a clean, subtle design to it. There's clean lines that come down the hood. Everything is a lot smaller than the 2022, but it does have a nice, clean, and iconic design to it. As we make our way to the side design now, this model here is lowered. It has an aftermarket set of wheels, so of course that's going to change the design slightly, but this has more carbon fiber in the lower side skirts. Being the four-doored, it is a sedan now, so it's stretched a lot longer, has a nice sedan style to it. More carbon fiber behind the front tire. It's even on the side mirrors, which have a turn signal and the camera. That is not new for modern cars, but compared to the 2nd generation, much different. Has a similar design to it with the side mirror, as you'll see. The entire roof is carbon fiber. Now going back to the 2nd generation M3, aftermarket set of wheels on this one too. And you can see the lower side skirt actually is different from a normal 3 Series. So back then with the M3, it got a few goodies added to it. You can also see that that plastic trim makes its way right through the middle section, surrounding the entire vehicle on the outside. On the side mirrors, like I showed on the 6th generation, it has 2 posts to it, which was another difference between a normal 3 Series at the time. On the 2022 that I showed, it kind of has a floating design to it, so it kind of retains that similar design. Now this did not have a carbon fiber roof, but it did have a sunroof, which the M3 does not have if you get the carbon fiber roof. And you can tell really nice and subtle lines running down the side. Now finishing up in the rear on this 2022, more carbon fiber on the trunk. There's even more carbon fiber in the lower diffuser, and it has the technology you would expect, like LED taillights, the backup camera, all the parking sensors as well. Even the quad tip dual exhaust with all of those fins running right in the middle. Most iconic for the rear end was that massive fixed wing. No backup camera, no sensors, very clean look to it, no LED taillights, only a single exit exhaust, but it still has a good note to it, as you'll see here soon. And then taking a look at the trunk space for this M3, you could use the button on the key fob or the button located up underneath. And as you would expect for any sedan, plenty of room for any items that you'd like to place in the back. You can even fold down the back seat. So being a modern car, it has a lot of practicality to it. For the second generation M3, there was no button on the key fob. You could push on this button, however, and use that to lock and unlock it. And once you did that, lifting this up with that massive wing, you have a good amount of space. This was a very, very practical sports car from back in the day. So you could have this as your backroads mountain car. You could take this out on the track. And then you had practicality to put in items to make this a daily driver. But as we make our way to the interior, you'll see everything for this modern 2022, being able to release the tailgate, all the window controls, side mirror adjustments, memory seating adjustments, all of that technology. And then with these bucket seats, they have a nice design to them with the M3 badge, heated and ventilated, of course, automatic for all the adjustments. And then over on this M3, there was no smart key, so you had that key there. And then the door panel was completely empty. There was a strap to close the door, a red strap to release the door in order to get out, and that was it. There was no technology on this, so kind of making it a little bit more track focused than the modern 2022. This has sport bucket seats, which were manual adjusting, and we'll take a quick look at the back. This had a full roll cage in it, so the back seats were a little bit unusable, but you could put 4 people in here if you had that roll cage taken out, making it a little bit more practical. And like I said, with these seats, very nice bucket design to them. I don't think they are factory seats. However, they could be, but they still have a great look. And then we'll take a quick look at the back seats for this 2022 M3. Being a sedan, it is much easier, of course, to enter and exit. Very practical with the amount of room that you get for your backseat passengers. Even the climate adjustments right in the middle, so that way your backseat passengers had some nice amenities. But as we move on to the driver's seat for the 6th generation, look at all of the carbon fiber on the steering wheel and all of the controls. There's volume for the radio, tuning, Bluetooth controls. You have the cruise control settings, M1 and M2, so that way you could set this up, have it ready to go. Carbon fiber paddle shifters. There is a lot going on the steering wheel, but of course very modern for today's world. On the 2nd generation BMW M3, you have Alcantara, you have stitching, you have the M badge, the BMW badge, and that is it. You hopped in this car, you had a steering wheel to take it around turns, and that was it. So very, very interesting to see the differences between both of these M3s. And then coming back to the gauge cluster for the 2022, this has the digital gauge cluster where you have a lot of information to go through. You can toggle through a good bit within the tack on the right side of the gauge cluster, so that gives you a lot of vitals that you'd like to see. On the 2nd generation M3, everything was analog, so you had the important information and nothing more. So you really only had to glance down at those to see a few things. On the left side, you had your headlight controls. On the right side, you had air vents, you had a radio, and you had some climate adjustments. So very, very simple. You had some information that you could toggle through just underneath that. Going into your speed, your limit, you had temperatures, different codes that you could look at. So it was a little bit helpful to have some of that. Over on the 2022 M3 with the center infotainment system, you had a lot more information to go through. I'm currently showing M1 and M2, so you could go in and configure all of this information depending on how you wanted to drive. You had the heated and ventilated seats, the backup camera. You have a ton of information to go through, even with all the climate adjustments. Very, very helpful to have all that information. And then real quick, just talking about the manual, this was the only option for the second generation M3. This had the 5-speed. Like I said, you could get a 6-speed if you wanted to. And then over on the 2022 M3, you can adjust the transmission by using this button on the backside. There are 3 different settings to make this very toned back or have it very high to have quick shifts depending on how you're driving. So I definitely like the amount of options that you can go with for the M3. You can get the M3 or the M3 Competition like what we're in. The M3 will give you the option of going with the manual transmission. So if you are a 3-pedal kind of person, you can still get the sedan with a manual. But down to second gear, we're going to give it another slight acceleration. Short shifting, since it's not my vehicle. This has so much more potential than what I'm throwing at it, and these are just a ball to drive. I love how comfortable they are, and they're very subtle in the fact that all the technology here is easy to use, but it's not overboard at the same time. This is a vehicle that you're looking to buy. You want the sports car performance, I'll say, but you need the practicality of a sedan, and you really don't want a lot to go through. You just want to get out and drive. This is such a fun car. And as we switch over to the POV angle, you can see what it's like to be behind the wheel of this M3. There's some shift lights too that will appear right on both sides of what gear you're in. One last acceleration. And it is so quick. All right, now that we're behind the wheel of this M3, the first thing I want to talk about is how different the seating position and steering wheel is. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to be the same with every M3 because I think these are aftermarket seats. Maybe they're mounted a little bit off, or maybe that's just how the M3 is with the transmission and how they have the paddles here, or the pedals here. Now the pedals feel fine, it's just the steering wheel is a little to the right. So like this is kind of where I should be rather than right here. So it's a little bit interesting to get used to that. You got the manual transmission. You have a lightweight car. It's not the fastest to 60, but this is a true back mountain roads car, true track car. And while it doesn't have that power, it's going to have that handling and performance that you're looking for in a vehicle like this. Give it another acceleration from second. And I'm not doing anything crazy today. The shifter is a little bit notchy, I will say. I mean that in a good way. And this clutch pedal is super light. So it's pretty easy to go through these gears. The shifter is, again, a little notchy for my taste, but it's so easy to drive, and even going in a straight line, this is a fun car to drive. I don't think that is a stock exhaust. Maybe it is, and we can just hear it because there's not a lot of detonating on the inside of this car. But we're coming up to a turn, so I can at least test the handling once here for today. Oh yeah, this is a true M car. So not the quickest car. I'm not going pedal to the floor, of course, but definitely a lot of fun. And so coming back to our final thoughts between the 2022 M3 and a 1996 M3, obviously these are completely different. Aside from the 6th generation, the 2nd generation that's in today's video is the only other older model M3 that I've been in. So for me, it was very cool to be able to compare both of these and really see the technology and the differences between the 2nd and the 6th generation. Now, like I mentioned, the 4th generation is when they unveiled the sedan, the coupe, and the convertible as well. And then for the 6th generation, which started in 2020, it went back to just being a sedan. So very interesting to see BMW's lineup for this car over the last several years. And I think it was really awesome to be able to drive a 2nd generation M3. Aside from having none of the technology that the 2022 has, it has a manual, very lightweight, and fun to drive. it definitely has a fun factor, even though it's an older car. I really, truly enjoy cars like that because they're driver's cars. You just hop in them and go. It is practical, which makes it that much more daily driver friendly. Having the back seats, having the trunk. You can drive it just like an M4, which is, I would say, a modern version because you can get a manual in the M4 as well. So it's kind of the modern day version of the M3. Practical, has all the technology, and you can drive it every day. So comment down below, would you take the second gen M3 or a 2022 M3? Not really a fair question to ask because they are completely different, but hopefully you enjoyed today's video getting to take a look at how far the M3 has come. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up and consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.